Well, hello, friend. What a thrill it is to be with you this evening. I hope you're having a great Tuesday evening or Wednesday, wherever you may be tuning in throughout the world. I am so excited to be talking to you tonight about maintaining a positive perspective. Boy, what a challenge. I really want to talk to you and to share with you that I get a lot of my ideas for these posts by reading a lot of your comments. I try to read as many as I can in between times that we are together, and I find that we're all going through a lot of the same things. And over the last couple of days, I've been reading a number of comments about people that are going through circumstances and they tend to lose perspective. And I think this plays right into what we've been talking about the last week. Before I go on any further, let me encourage you that if you can think of one person right now that might want to hear the message on how to maintain or even get a positive perspective, go ahead and share this post with them right now. We talked about discouragement and disappointment over the last week or so. We began with disappointment, and I learned this lesson from a third grade dropout daddy who didn't stay disappointed very long. I could remember he would always say, "Son, there's always a silver lining. Son, there's always a bright side." It was Thoreau who said it like this: "If you're quiet enough and if you're ready enough, we shall find compensation in every disappointment." That's pretty profound. My father would say, anytime, son, you're disappointed, look for the opportunity. There's always an opportunity that will present itself, but you have to look for it and you have to be ready for it. It was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said on one occasion, an opportunity missed is an opportunity lost. And so with regard to disappointment, as soon as that disappointment comes, okay, it's here, where is the opportunity? Sometimes we lose perspective because not only are we disappointed, but we're also discouraged. There is an absence of courage. And one of the things that I have realized is that, once again, borrowing from the lessons from my dad, son, when you are discouraged, you have to think of something greater than yourself to pull you out. Listen, I am an expert at this. When I get discouraged and stay discouraged, it's because I choose to make the focus on me. I'm a pro at doing that. And what my dad would try to tell me is that if you can somehow get the attention off you, focus on a need that you want to meet that goes beyond you, that can teach you or encourage you to take some baby steps outside of discouragement. So that's why I talked about finding a need, committing to that particular need, that particular purpose as a way of getting out of that discouraging perspective. I remember for me, after my wife died, the need was survival. It was survival for the sake of my boys who needed a mom and a dad. And I just said every single day, this is my purpose. This is my single focus. And this is what I need to get me out of my own head and out of my own way. Do you remember the words of Napoleon Hill? He wrote that book called Think and Grow Rich. And he said with every successful person that he interviewed, he noted a couple of things. Number one, they were not afraid to fail. But listen to this one once again. Here's tonight's quote worth requoting. Napoleon Hill said, "When a person has a singleness of purpose and a burning desire to accomplish that purpose, no force can hold them back." A singleness of purpose and a burning desire to accomplish that purpose. It's hard to keep a force like that down. And so, friend, I know that I lose perspective when I'm discouraged. I know that I lose perspective when I'm disappointed. When those things happen, doubt comes in. Eventually, depression can reside inside of your spirit and just choke your peace. It can choke your joy. You begin to fret easily. You begin to get very anxious, to be fearful, and to worry. I remember a few years ago going to Nigeria and talking to a Nigerian brother, and the subject of worry came up. And I will never forget what he said. I want you to commit this to memory if you haven't already. He said, to worry is like paying interest on a loan that you don't owe. It's like paying on a loan that you don't have. It's like making a payment that you don't owe. It's pointless. It's meaningless. But yet, we're human. And the tendency is to not trust, but to be motivated by our feelings. And our feelings say we need to worry because we don't think there is any way out. I learned by listening to other people. Years ago, when I lived in College Station, Texas, down the street, we had a neighbor who was a pilot for American Airlines. He flew 767s at the time. And he told me during his Air Force training, one of the things that always stuck in his head was then when crisis would occur in the cockpit, you ask one question: are we still flying? What a great question to ask yourself. Are we still living? Are we still breathing? If we're still living, if we're still breathing, analogous to the pilot, if you're still flying, you have another opportunity to change your perspective. So instead of saying, woe is me, I'm rock bottom, I don't know if I can get up, just ask yourself, am I still breathing? Am I still walking? Am I still flying? Because if you're still walking, if you're still breathing, there's always the potential to do a little bit better, to grow a little bit more. I have a dear special friend. His name is Steve Cragthorpe. When I was on the football staff at Texas A&M, he was one of the coaches. And he coached at a variety of places, including the Buffalo Bills, where he was the quarterback's coach. He told me once that this is what he would teach his quarterbacks in the NFL. Whenever they're in a crisis situation, which that's pretty much the entire game, he would tell his quarterbacks to adopt, adjust, and overcome. Boy, that's pretty good in terms of regaining the perspective. Adopt, adjust, overcome. Adopt. All right, here's adopting. You're in a situation right now, right? It's insurmountable. It's causing you to worry. It's causing you to be disappointed, discouraged. There's anxiety, there's stress. You're losing your perspective. How does adopting help? It helps like this. I realistically look at the situation. There are many variables that I cannot change, but there are some things that I can change. I'm going to adopt to that particular reality. Now I'm going to adjust. One of the things I can change is the way that I perceive the situation, the way that I look at the situation. How can I overcome? Well, if you're like me, in a situation that causes great anxiety, you're replaying the negatives over and over and over and over again. What about overcoming by not always thinking worst case scenario, but thinking, I wonder if there's another possible outcome that might be better. Listen to me very carefully, friend. Your situation may not change, but how you view your situation now has the potential to change. Although Steve Cragthorpe taught me adopt, adjust, and overcome, I really saw it in a living sense from a dying wife. I learned how to adopt, adjust, and overcome by watching my wife, Trina, battle breast cancer. I can remember her adopting. She would say this. She would say, I have breast cancer, but breast cancer doesn't have me. I read one of your comments a couple of days ago where you were talking about kidney disease, and you said the exact same thing. You said, I have kidney disease, but kidney disease doesn't have me. In other words, that illness that you're fighting on a temporary level does not define who you are. And I really want to challenge you to adopt by realizing the reality of the situation, understanding that your present situation does not define the rest of your life. Now, how do you adjust? You adjust by looking at the variables that you can change. With regard to Trina, she had some bad times when she had chemotherapy. She had some good times when she wasn't in chemotherapy. Guess how she adjusted? During the bad times, there were no picnics. We couldn't go to the Little League field. We had to postpone trips. But we knew that when she was off that particular round of chemotherapy, that would be a time that we could do some other things. So you adjust. I remember getting ready for church one Sunday morning, and she was brushing her hair, and her hair started coming out in balls, which is devastating for anybody, particularly for a woman. This is how she adjusted. Instead of going to church that day, we went to a wig shop, and she looked beautiful in her wig. She adjusted. But here was the greatest lesson that Trina taught me: overcoming. I watched in nearly 6 years Trina move from I don't know what to do to how am I living. All of a sudden, learning how to adapt to the situation, adjust what needs to be adjusted, really caused her to change the perspective. So much so that just 2 days before she passed away, she said these words that I know you've heard in the video. She said to me, "It doesn't matter to me any longer how long I live. What matters to me most is how I live." I'm talking about changing your perspective. I know what some of you might be thinking. Well, yeah, but Trina passed away. But before she died, she left a legacy. She taught me how to have a positive perspective by realizing the situation, realizing what I can control, what I cannot control, adjusting where I need to, and then beginning with an overcoming kind of mindset that says, you know what? Yes, this situation is difficult, but how am I living? I make no excuse. How am I choosing to live regardless of this situation? Friend, I want to say again, your situation may not change, but I guarantee you this: your view of that situation will change. Let's work it out together, baby steps, one step at a time. Until we meet again, be blessed. Can't wait to talk to you again real soon.